Dear students and my teacher friends, Namaskar. I welcome you to the presentation lecture on eye structure. Learning objective, what we are going to discuss in this lecture. So in this lecture, we are going to describe various structures of the eye, what our eye is made up of, which are the components that makes our eye that we are going to discuss in this lecture. Now, the shape of the eye is an almost spherical, that means a rounded organ, and the size of the eye, so eye measures about 2.5 centimeter, that is 1 inch is the diameter of our eye. Now most part of the eye is present in the orbit. Orbit is included in the skull, so we can say our eyeball is present in the orbit of the skull. Now orbit is a space. Along with the eye, you will find the lacrimal gland in the orbit. Then the extrinsic eye muscles are there. Numerous blood vessels are also present in the orbit. Then the cranial nerves are also present in the orbit, and these nerves they innervate our eyeball. Okay, and few other structures are also present in the orbit. So here in this figure, as you can see, our eyeball is shown in the orbit, and you read all the names. Okay, and in this figure, this is the external anatomy of the eye and surrounding accessory structures. Now here in this figure, lacrimal apparatus they are showing, lacrimal gland. So lacrimal gland or the tear gland produces the tears. Okay, and you see from where the tears are produced and where the tears are going. Now here in this figure, see the pupil constriction and dilation of pupil is shown. Pupillary constriction, pupillary dilation. So in bright light, as you can see, pupil constrict, and in low light or dim light, pupil dilate. And in pupillary constriction, parasympathetic, we know we have already discussed this thing in autonomic nervous system. So parasympathetic nervous system innervate or responsible for pupillary constriction, and sympathetic innervation, sympathetic nervous system is responsible for pupillary dilation. So pupil diameter they are showing. Okay. Now here eyelids. Okay, lacrimal apparatus. Now the extrinsic eye muscles, which are connected with our eyeball, and they are responsible for the movement of our eyeball. Okay, This the nerves of orbit are shown. So you see the nerves which are innervating, which are present in the orbit, and they are innervating the eyeball. Superior and anterior view of orbit. Okay, here you can see this is the eyeball. Arteries and veins of orbit and eyelids. Okay. Okay, now we are moving back to our discussion. Okay. Now we are discussing the orbital fat. Okay, here in the yellow color you can see the orbital fat, and over here also this yellow color is the orbital fat. Now what is the function of this orbital fat? So orbital fat provide cushion to our eyeball, and this orbital fat is present posterior and lateral side of our eyeball. Orbital fat provide support, protection to our eyeball, and this orbital fat also facilitate oxygen and nutrient delivery by the blood through it associated blood vessel. That means the blood vessel, artery or vein, they pass through this orbital fat and they reach into the various region of the eyeball. Okay, so now the blood vessel, the capillary network, from that capillary network, which is the blood is present in that capillaries, so that capillary blood providing oxygen and nutrient to various cell of the eyeball. Okay, so this is the role that orbital fat is playing. Okay, now in the structure of eye, uh, two fluid filled cavities are present. Okay, so in our eyeball, two fluid filled cavities are present, and these two cavities, they are separated by lens. So between these two cavities, lens is present. For example, over here, this part, this is one cavity, this portion another cavity. Between these two cavity, as you can see, the biconvex. Okay, this is the convex surface, this one is the convex surface, so our lens is biconvex. So between the two fluid filled cavities, the lens is present. Lens is a transparent biconvex structure. What is lens? Lens is a transparent biconvex structure, and lens is enclosed in a fibrous capsule. Okay, lens is well protected in the fibrous capsule. Now, posterior cavity is present behind the lens, and this posterior cavity is having permanent fluid which is known as vitreous humor. So here you can see this one is the posterior cavity, and in the posterior cavity permanent fluid is present which is known as vitreous humor. anterior cavity which is present in front of the lens, anterior cavity, okay, present in front of lens, and this anterior cavity contain a circulating fluid. So circulating fluid which is present in anterior cavity is known as Equus Humor. Okay. Now the lens and both the fluids are described in detail later in this section. Okay, so we are going to discuss about the lens and about both the fluids. Okay, in coming points. Okay, so let me show you the entire figure. Okay, this is our eyeball. Okay, read all the names. Okay, now the fourth point. See, now the wall of our eyeball is formed by three principal tunics, or we can say the eye wall is made up of three layers. The outermost layer or the tunic is known as fibrous tunic. Okay, so this one is the fibrous tunic. Okay, fibrous tunic also known as external layer. Then the middle layer, this one, okay, is known as vascular tunic, middle layer. And last one is the inner layer, which is known as retina. So this one is the retina. Okay, this is the retina. Okay, so our eye wall is made up of three principal tunics: fibrous tunic, vascular tunic, and the inner layer. Now fibrous tunic made up of sclera, cornea, iris, ciliary body, and choroid are the part of vascular tunic, and in the retina pigmented cell layer and neural layers are present. Now fibrous tunic. Okay, see, the external layer of the eye wall is called fibrous tunic, or also known as external tunic. So this one is the fibrous tunic. Now this fibrous tunic is composed posteriorly of sclera, and anterior to it cornea is present. So we can say fibrous tunic is made up of is composed of two part: anterior portion known as cornea and the posterior part known as sclera. So this is the eyeball. Okay, and here as you can see the name is written cornea. So this one is the cornea. Okay, and over here you can see this white portion. Okay, this is the sclera. Over here also this is the sclera. 1 minute. Okay, so fibrous tunic. Now we are moving forward, and now we are discussing about the Now we are discussing the sixth point. Now, as we have seen the cornea and sclera, see, most of the fibrous tunic is tough sclera. Okay, so sclera is present. See, posterior 5/6 portion of our eye is occupied by sclera. Now, scleros meaning hard. So, sclera is a part of the outer layer, and this sclera is known as white of the eye. Now, what the sclera is made up of? So, sclera is composed of dense, irregular connective tissue and numerous blood vessels and nerves are also present in the sclera. Now, the function of sclera provides sclera is responsible for the shape of our eye. Sclera protects delicate internal components of our eye, and sclera serves as attachment site for extrinsic eye muscle. So, eye muscles joins with the sclera. Now, posteriorly, the sclera is continuous with the dura mater, and this dura mater surround the optic nerve. Okay. So this is about the fibrous tunic and the sclera. Okay, now we are discussing about the cornea. So as you have seen in the figure, cornea, the shape of cornea is a convex. Okay. Cornea is also transparent structure, and cornea forms anterior 1/6 of the fibrous tunic. Now, as the cornea is a convex shape, so cornea reflects light rays. Okay, light rays which fall on cornea. So the cornea bending them, okay, and converts them, send them into the eye. Okay, so the function of cornea is to refract the light rays, okay, and diverge them, send them into our eye. Now, cornea, what is the structure? What the cornea is made up of? So, cornea is composed innerly by simple squamous epithelium. So, in the structure of cornea, inside simple squamous epithelium is present. In the middle layer, collagen fibers are present, and the outer region is occupied by stratified squamous epithelium, which is known as corneal epithelium. The cornea contains no blood vessels. Okay, so this is the cornea, this one is the cornea, and the main role, it is responsible for refraction of light. Now we are discussing about limbus. See here the name is written, okay, limbus. So what is limbus? See, cornea merge with the sclera at its outer edge, and the region where the cornea combine with the cornea merge with cornea join with the sclera, that region is known as limbus. So here in the figure you can see this one is the cornea, okay, and this is the sclera. They are merging at limbus. Limbus, also known as corneal scleral junction. Okay. Now we are discussing about the middle layer. Okay, middle layer, this layer which is shown in the pinkish or purple color. Okay, so this pinkish or purple color layer is the vascular middle layer. So first you observe this entire eyeball. Okay, so in this eyeball, this part, okay, this portion, this is, and this one, okay, this is the vascular middle layer. So the middle layer of the eye wall is the vascular tunic or the vascular middle layer, also known as uvea. Okay, uvea means graph. Now what is there present? What are the part of this vascular tunic? So vascular tunic houses an extensive array of blood vessels in the vascular tunic. Many blood vessels are present, lymph vessels are there, and intrinsic muscle of the eye are also present in this middle layer. Vascular middle layer, vascular tunic, is composed of three distinct regions from posterior to anterior, from back to front. They are the first region known as choroid, second region ciliary body, and third is known as iris. So one by one I am showing. For example, over here you can see the name. This is the choroid they are showing. Okay, this purple color portion is the choroid. Then this portion, ciliary body, okay, and third, iris. So here this portion is the iris. Okay, so vascular middle layer, vascular tunic, is having three distinct region: choroid, ciliary body, and the iris. Now in this figure also, see here in this figure, ciliary body. Okay, so this entire portion, okay, this entire portion, this is ciliary body. This portion, okay, this is iris. Okay, and and the choroid. So this portion is the choroid. This portion Okay, ciliary body, this portion, iris. So vascular tunic is having three regions, okay, choroid, ciliary body, and the iris. Now we are discussing about the choroid. What is choroid? See here, this part, okay, this is the choroid. So we can see the choroid is present between the sclera and inside retina. So in between the sclera and retina, the choroid is present, and this portion, this part, they have cut and they have zoomed and they are showing like this. So here you can see outside choroid, and this inside, this entire portion is the retina. So what is choroid? So choroid is a highly vascular layer. That means, as you can see, inside there are so many blood vessels are there, arteries and veins. Arteries with the red color and veins with the blue color are shown, and the cross section we are looking at. Okay, so choroid is highly vascular. Many blood vessels are present in this layer, and this blood vessel, they supply oxygen and nutrient to retina and sclera. So the cells of sclera and retina, they are nourished and they get the supply of oxygen from the blood vessels of the choroid. Now I'm showing you this figure. See, structure and organization of the retina. Okay, so you see all the layers, you see the choroid, and here in the retina you read all the names of the cells. Okay, photoreceptor cell, rods and cones are shown, then the horizontal cell, bipolar cell, amacrine cell, ganglion cell, okay, then the axons of ganglion cell. So read all the names. Okay, now we are moving forward. Okay. Now ciliary body. Now what is ciliary body? What role the ciliary body is playing in our eye? Okay, so this is the ciliary body they are showing. Here the name is written, ciliary body. So what is ciliary body? So ciliary body is a thick extension of choroid which forms a collar around the lens. Here this is the lens, and here you can see this is the collar like structure the ciliary body is forming on both the side of the lens. The main function of ciliary body is to secrete a fluid which is known as aqueous humor. Ciliary body secrete a fluid known as Equus Humor. Here in this figure, ciliary body. Okay. Okay. Now the iris. Okay. First, let me show you. This is the iris. This one is this is a part of iris, not the entire one. Okay. Then in this figure, from the side we are looking. This is the iris. Okay. So what is iris? Iris is the ring of colored muscle. Now the function, the role of iris. Iris works to adjust the diameter of the pupil. That means the dilation and contraction of pupil, for that iris is responsible. Now what is pupil? Pupil, the central opening of the iris. So by the constriction and dilation of pupil, we can control the amount of light that enters our eye. Okay. Now we are discussing point number 13. Neural inner layer. Okay. Now the retina is a thin layer of light sensitive cell. So in the structure of retina, light sensitive cells are present. So here in the figure, see, anatomy of the eyeball is shown in the figure, and the wall of the eyeball. So with the yellow color, as you can see, they are showing the retina. Okay. Here also the yellow color portion is the retina. Now here, see, this is the eyeball and the cells of retina are shown over here. So here in the figure, as you can see, okay, this is the entire retina they have shown. So in the structure of retina, as you can see, the pigmented cellular layer is present. Then the photoreceptor cell, rod cells are present, cone cells are present in photoreceptor cell layer. Then there is a outer synaptic layer. So here you can see the synapses are made. Okay, then after that, bipolar cell layer. In bipolar cell layer, horizontal cell, bipolar cell and amacrine cells are present. then the ganglion cell layer in which the ganglion cells are present. Now here you can see the axons of ganglion cell, they merge together and they form the optic nerve. Okay, so ganglion cell axon joins together, they bundle together and they form the optic nerve. Now here with the arrow they have shown the direction of nerve impulse. So nerve impulse propagate along optic nerve axon toward optic disc. Okay. So here see the optic disc is shown. These are the blood vessel. This one is the retina. See, neural layer of retina, then the pigmented layer of retina. Okay, then the choroid, sclera. So what is retina? Retina lines posterior two-thirds of our eye. Inside the retina, photoreceptor cells are present, and these photoreceptor cells are known as rods and cones. So basically, in the retina, photoreceptor cell, rod and cones are present, and this rod and cone cell, they are stimulated by light ray. So when the light ray falls upon the cell, they are stimulated and they generate electrical or chemical signal. So they produce nerve impulse. Now we can view the retina by using a handheld instrument which is known as ophthalmoscope. So by using ophthalmoscope, we can view our retina. So by using this instrument, we need to look through the pupil. So then we will be able to see the retina which is present to the back of our eye. So this is about the retina. Here you see with the arrows, see with this arrow right hand side they are showing direction of incoming light, and this arrow left hand side they are showing direction of nerve impulse through retina. So this is the direction of incoming light, and this is the direction of nerve impulse. Okay, now we are moving forward. Okay, now we are discussing about Macula Lutea. First you observe this figure and see where exactly this Macula Lutea is located. Okay, and you see the direction of light. Okay, so this is the Macula Lutea. So what is Macula Lutea? So Macula Lutea is the center point of retina which can be seen through ophthalmoscope. Macula lutea is a patch of cell. Okay, what is macula lutea? It is group of cell, patch of cell, which is present in the center of the retina. Now inside the macula lutea one depression is observed. For example, this is the depression we are talking about. So this depression is known as Fovea Centralis. Now in the Fovea Centralis, most of the cone cells are present. Okay, so most of the cones are concentrated in this region. As most of the cones are present in this region, making this area that produce the sharpest vision. So during bright daylight, uh, Fovea Centralis uh, is the center which is responsible for our vision. Now in the Fovea Centralis, rod cells are absent. Okay, so where these rod cells are present, they are mostly clustered along the outside edges of the retina. So in the fovea centralis, rods are absent, but in this all this remaining portion of the retina, they are present in the form of cluster rod cells. Okay. Now medial to macula lutea, optic disc is present. So here you can see this is the optic disc, and optic disc also known as blind spot. Now what happens at this optic disc? So the nerve fiber of optic nerve, they leave the retina at this point. So here you can see this is the optic nerve fiber, and they are leaving the eyeball from this blind spot or the optic disc point. All this fiber, they join together, they converge, and they become optic nerve. So here this is the optic nerve they are showing, cranial nerve 2, and this is also the spot, this blind spot, where blood vessel enter and leave the eye. For example, here we can see with the red color, the artery is entering in the eyeball, and with the blue color, okay, the vein is leaving the eyeball. Now we are discussing about the optic nerve. Okay, so exiting from the posterior portion of the eyeball is the optic nerve. So this is the optic nerve they are showing. Okay, cranial nerve 2, and this optic nerve transmits signal to the brain. Okay, it is sending the nerve impulse to our brain, different centers of our brain. So when the nerve impulse reaches to the various brain center, that time we experience the sense of vision. So that we can see the various object, we can differentiate various colors. Okay, so this is the optic nerve. See, nerves of orbit, this one is the optic nerve. Okay, and you see how it is coming. See, this is over here, this is the eyeball, but we are not able to see that because the muscles are covering the part of orbit, that's why. So just beneath the muscles, the optic nerve come out from the eyeball. Okay, and then it reaches to various center of our brain. It will send the nerve impulse to the various center of our brain. Okay, here also all the nerves are shown. See, here the name is written, optic nerve. Here also optic nerve. Okay. Okay, now chambers and fluids of our eyeball. Okay, so our eye is actually a fluid filled sphere. Okay, it is like a ball which is filled with fluid, and we can divide our eyeball into two main cavities, and these cavities are one cavity is located in front of our lens, and one cavity is present posterior to our lens. So the space between the lens and the cornea, this is our lens, this is the cornea, so this space, okay, is known as the anterior cavity. So in the figure you can see this one, this part is the anterior cavity, and anterior cavity is further divided into, this one is the anterior chamber and this one is the posterior chamber. Now posterior chamber present posterior to the iris, but posterior chamber, this chamber, okay, for example, see this chamber, posterior chamber, where it is present, so posterior to iris, this is the iris, so posterior to it, posterior chamber is present, and anterior to lens, this is the lens. Okay, so posterior chamber posterior to iris but anterior to lens, this is the lens, in anterior to it the posterior chamber is present. Now what is there in anterior cavity, what this anterior cavity is filled up of? So anterior cavity is filled up of clear watery fluid, and this clear watery fluid which is present in anterior cavity, which is present in anterior and posterior chamber, this fluid is known as aqueous humor. Okay, so aqueous humor is the fluid of anterior cavity, aqueous humor is the fluid of anterior and posterior chamber. Okay, this is the key for anterior chamber, posterior cavity. This is your theory point. This is the figure. Now we have discussed about the anterior cavity. Now we are discussing about the posterior cavity. So here you can see this is the posterior cavity. Posterior cavity is the larger cavity which is present posterior to the lens. For example, this is the lens, and posterior to the lens the posterior cavity is present here. And this is the anterior cavity, and posterior to anterior cavity posterior cavity is present. Okay, so in short, behind the anterior cavity and lens posterior cavity is present. Posterior cavity is filled with a jelly-like substance, and this jelly-like substance is known as vitreous humor. So in the posterior cavity, jelly-like substance is present, which is known as vitreous humor, and due to the presence of vitreous humor, okay, which is a solid, semi-solid material, this vitreous humor is, and that's why our eyeball do not collapse. Okay, so our eyeball remain erect, it is not collapsing because the vitreous humor is filling the posterior cavity. That's why. Now, now we are discussing about the lens. Okay, here the lens. So as you can see, the lens is biconvex. This surface is convex, this surface is convex. So both the surfaces anterior and posterior are the convex one. So our lens is biconvex. What is lens? Lens is a transparent disc of tissue and is present behind the pupil. So here the pupil, this part, this is the pupil. Okay, and behind the pupil, as you can see, the lens is present. Now the location of lens. So lens is present between the anterior and posterior cavities, and lens can change the shape for near and far vision. So the object which are present very close to us and the far away object, when we want to see them, when we want to look at them, the lens can change its shape accordingly. Okay.